Hello, everyone. It's Deana at the Realize Foundation. And today I get to have a conversation with Kristin Payne. And I'm so excited to have you here, Kristin. And I want you to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do in the world.
Thank you so much for having me. Like you said, my name is Kristin Payne. I'm actually a voiceover actor and an author and illustrator. I also do like humanitarian work. I volunteer. I used to volunteer at Refuge City, which they provided survivors of human trafficking with GED programs and counseling and things like that. They are no longer around, unfortunately, because of funding and things like that. But I still volunteer with Genesis, Women's Shelter. So I do a lot of those kinds of things. And I just recently wrote and filmed my motivational speech, Transmuting Pain, because I wanted to start helping more and more women understand that you can make so many mistakes, go through so much, and then you can use that to better yourself and heal others. So that's kind of the journey I'm on. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where are you in the world?
Right now, I'm in Arlington, Texas. I live in Bedford, Texas, but my friend who has a very nice house and a bigger space let me come here to do,
Oh, cool.
my recordings and things like that. So yeah, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Yep.
Got it. So, will you start us on the journey of your story and how everything you're doing now, where did it start?
So I was 10 years old, and my best friend had an older teenage brother that would inappropriately abuse me late at night and then at the lake house when we'd go on vacations. And it would happen all the time. And because I didn't really understand any of that as a 10-year-old, I just thought that it was okay, but then I also didn't tell anybody about it because it was embarrassing and I thought I'd get in trouble. And so it did a lot of damage, but what furthered that is my dad in the same year I was still 10, my dad left our family. He had a midlife crisis, and then he didn't really contact the kids anymore. And so I had really bad daddy issues, as they call them, and and so in my teenage years, I started using drugs because I was self medicating. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was just, wild and wanting to live life how I wanted to. And it wasn't until 2012, after I had been a stripper and a prostitute and a heroin addict, that I challenged a God I did not believe in. So I was an atheist, and I remember being in the shower. I was like scrubbing my skin, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, if you're real, why don't you change my life? Why don't you change my life? And within that week, my mom got a phone call from a family friend who ran a ministry triumphs. And Kristin doing? And my mom was like, I don't know. I don't see her. She said, well, God has put it on my heart to get in touch with her. So I meet with this woman, Mary Jo. She does the whole, hands on me, Jesus. The room was bright. My entire life changed. And I was like, oh, so I can never say God doesn't exist. And so I started praying, and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. If I'm not supposed to go to a club or, use my body for money, what do I do? And, I saw this vision of me in an apron baking cookies. And I was like, cookies, like sell cookies. And that's what it was. I started a cookie business and I did telegrams. And from there, I morphed into volunteering for human trafficking and things like that. So that was the kind of first, big chunk of my life, the trauma and then the healing. There was that first part of that journey. Yeah.
Wow. So, what would you, if you had advice for someone who was in the situation you were in as a stripper and a heroin addict, what advice would you have for them to get
The
out of that situation?
Absolutely. The first and foremost thing is if you don't have a loving, supportive relative who can support your sobriety and also be sober, you need to go to a doctor. You need to join a group of sober people that know the right medicine to get on because, especially with opiates, you can't just get off of them, you withdraw and things. So you need like a medical attention. You also need counseling, and just you have to. I lived in my mom's guest bedroom and watched, movies from my childhood. So healing that inner child, being around complete sobriety, I want to say give it minimum a solid year. That is like step number one to get off and stay off of the drugs. You have to completely change your entire environment. And if you're with a partner that is not supportive, or even worse, they say they're supportive, but then they're like, oh, you can do this and still do this. That's incorrect. You have to literally like take yourself out of that tank and submerge yourself into sober tank with people who love you and want the best for you. Yeah.
Mhm. That's good advice. I've been
Yeah.
down the road with alcohol, but not any other substance. So it's true. I talk to people a lot who credit the 12-step program of AA, saving their life. So if you're in
Oh yeah.
that situation, it is something to consider or to look into. I even have
Yes.
people who are grown adults who have told me they go to AA meetings because it's the only place they can get support for their mental health issues, and they're not an alcoholic. And so I have this dream of creating like an AA style program that is for just mental health and depression and anxiety, and
That is
how can we
genius. Oh
well
my gosh. No, serious. That's amazing because you are so right. And because it is free, you're not having to pay somebody. It is just a group of my like-minded people meeting for that. I mean, I support that 100%. It's so necessary. So necessary. To truly change your life because you can go 3 times a day if you want. NA is amazing like that, or AA, or whatever. You can find a location and you can go. They have a meeting every 2 hours round the clock. It blows my mind. And I'm just like that it saves people. It really does. And you need that kind of consistency when you want to get out of that lifestyle for sure. Oh, there
sorry
you are.
about
I was
that.
like, did
I
I
had a
lose you?
coffee
That's
in the
okay.
cat.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We'll edit that out. Ugh. I'm getting over pneumonia, so
Oh my gosh.
I'll cut this little part out.
Yeah. Oh no, you poor
Um,
thing.
anyway, no, I agree with you. I do think it's let me. So I do think that the 12 steps save people's lives, and I have a friend who is going to be on our podcast who just wrote a book about it actually, and she has a similar story to you as a sex addict and a I think it was cocaine was
Drug
her
addict.
drug of choice.
Right.
And she
Yep.
just wrote a book called The Pit of Despair that talks about how the 12 steps and prayer like got her sober and well. And she writes prayers after each chapter, which are really cool, that are written,
Oh, that's
by her.
great.
Um, and so I feel like y'all would have a lot to talk about, but I
Oh, I
think
will.
it's
I need to look up that book. Yeah. Well, send me the link to her book. I would love to read it for sure.
yeah. Let me just grab. Um, so it's sorry, it's this book, The Pit of Despair, and her name is
Okay.
Lisa Jo Barr, and she's going to be on our podcast soon as well. She lives in Denver.
Oh, nice. I've never been. I've always wanted to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to somebody who said how did you it must have been when you went to stay with your mom and you were watching those movies and healing your inner child, there had to be some really hard parts of that. And you don't just go from where you were to that atmosphere and everything magically changes. So when you
Oh,
were having like a hard time, how did you get through it?
well, so the withdrawal was about a solid week, and I remember just, I had to sweat it out. You don't always have to do that. But like I said, popping in those movies from my childhood, I just remember I thought if I keep focused on this innocent kind of lighthearted stuff, I will make it through. And so that, that first week, but then afterwards they talk about, the cravings and things like that. I would always get little pieces of chocolate, and every time I felt like I needed something, because you still are so frazzled, emotionally wrecked, that you're like, I need comfort, I need comfort. And so
Mhm.
I would replace, drugs with little pieces of chocolate, or, and especially it was easier for me because I started making cookies, right? I would make like an extra or two and just have cookies. The other thing that really, really helped was I journaled and I wrote a lot of poetry. And if you put your mind, like when you're just fed up with the world, I still needed money. I still needed, there were so many things, like extra things that any other person could break easily and just go do drugs because it's too hard. But if you're writing out your feelings onto paper, it's almost like you're relieving yourself of that dark negativity, and you immediately start feeling lighter. And then they'd say take vitamins and drink water, and that is not a silly suggestion, that is imperative. The other thing that really helped me that people are surprised about is breathing. Sometimes you can spend, I want to say, even if you just take a chunk of 15 minutes and you lay on the ground, you close your eyes and you just solidly breathe for a solid 15 minutes, and like conscientiously, let the negativity go out with each breath, you feel a million times better after things like that. And it's all over YouTube. So, especially in this day and age, you can just we have little computers in our hands. We can instantly access different things to do. But those are the things that really helped me the most, is journaling, watching nostalgic movies, and breathing and water and healthy stuff
Awesome.
with some cookies and chocolate here and there.
That's funny. I saw a meme recently and I've seen it before. It says it doesn't matter what the question is. The answer is chocolate.
I love it. I support that. I love it. But yeah, and then
Yeah.
like I said, just being around people that love
Mhm.
you, that won't
Mhm.
judge you. So I'm so blessed I have my mom. Like even
Mhm.
now, she's incredible. Some people don't have that. And that's why if you go to NA or AA, you can get a sponsor. Those people have your best interest at heart. There's always somebody that you can find that will be
Mhm.
supportive, right? So,
Yeah, and our Facebook is a good place. It's Scars to Stars Live is our Facebook group, and anybody can find it and ask to join. And it's really just, we talk about our podcast and our books, and then it's a place where people can connect and build relationships with other people that are used to having these hard conversations around trauma and mental health. Because I think that, my own story after my suicide attempt, I was 27. I For 23 years, I didn't tell a soul. I didn't get help. I didn't do anything about it. And I didn't think it was okay to talk about. And
right,
so when I went in 2018, I lost a friend to suicide, and he was also worked in my industry, and I'd known him for 20 years, and I had been trying to have lunch with him because he was going through a hard time, and I never got to have lunch with him. And it was like God just was like shaking me, saying, "Hey, you need to speak up." And, and I know that if I could have had a conversation with him, I could have made a difference. I don't know that I could have saved his life, but I
right.
could have made a difference.
Yes.
And that just haunts me. And so I'm like, I have to do whatever I can do to talk about these conversations. And I really do think that people who are in a dark place, some people need meds, some people need psych wards, but I think the majority of us just need a conversation with a kind person who cares.
Communication.
Yeah, we need
Yes.
conversations and community and human connection. And we need to know that other people have been where we are and there is hope to get through it. And in my opinion, that is that is just as important as going to a doctor or a counselor or getting meds. And I haven't been through every kind of mental health problems there are, but from my experience and my conversations with others, I can't tell you how much feedback we've gotten where just a conversation or reading someone's story is so helpful to people.
Oh yeah. Well, and
Mhm.
similarly, I've had over my journey, my years of, my struggles, and I'm actually very like, oh, I talk about it a lot. And I've
Mhm.
had, girls that I didn't even know watched me or watched my story message me and say, "You have no idea how important your voicing this addiction journey has been for me. I quit Xanax and cocaine, and it is because I saw you do it." And it's like that has happened multiple times where girls I didn't even know who are paying attention say thank you to me. And I'm like, so those are the people that say something. And we're not even aware of, the people who watch that are too nervous. So it's like you're doing exactly what you need to be, is speaking out and allowing people to have a platform. And also like the notion that it's okay. We need to remove the stigma, because doing that is helping so many women and people just in general. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true that people, like the 23 years that I was silent, I didn't speak up because I didn't think it was okay. I didn't think as a manager, leader, entrepreneur, it was okay for me to talk about the fact that I was suicidal 20 years ago or any of that time. And I think it hurts us when we don't talk about it,
Yep.
and for those people that are in the place I was, they could pick up a book and read a story and they have a link to connect with somebody that they resonate with, then they might, like, I feel like I would have done that. I would have had that conversation with somebody that maybe I didn't even know, but I wasn't comfortable talking to my family or friends about it. And so I think between our books and our podcast, if people can understand, there's this other person that went through something similar and I have a way to reach out to them and talk to them. I just feel like
Absolutely.
it can be the first step of getting help without having to go make an appointment with the doctor or talk to somebody that you're scared to talk to.
Yeah, because it's an easy access. It's a simple step to get on, see a thing, and maybe leave a comment or direct message, which is why it's good you leave links to, different access for that. So yeah, I really, really, really do think that this is a perfect step in the right direction for just breaking the silence on all kinds of trauma. And I think as a collective, we are headed in that direction. There are some other YouTube channels and podcasts that, do the same thing for like near death experience survivors, right? Little niches, so people are starting to get more comfortable, breaking the silence and coming out. And yeah, and this kind of trauma, it's ugly to talk about. It is embarrassing, but you're right. The more people do it, the less intimidating it will be for the people who really do need to speak out, for sure.
And I think especially at first, it's embarrassing and like you said, but at the same time, I think that most of the world sees somebody who talks about this stuff as strong and you made it through all this stuff and now you have this experience. It's kind of like being an entrepreneur. Like you started a business and you may have failed 20 million times, but you made it once, and now you have that experience to share with other people, and some of that is embarrassing too. But
Right.
it's like, whether we're talking about business or whether we're talking about mental health or personal trauma, it's all being vulnerable and authentic about your experiences to help others.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's just how I see the world changing a bit. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that still are like, you're talking about what? But I think it's very important, especially for all of the people in the world that have had so much trauma that people don't even realize.
Right.
Um, and I was talking to somebody earlier today about how, you know, people know about suicide. They know the word, they know that the rates are rising or whatever. But if someone's never been touched by that or never known anybody who's been in that place, it's hard for them to really understand why we have these conversations.
Oh
And then
yeah.
every once in a while I get a phone call out of nowhere from somebody who's like, Deana, I had no idea. And now I have a family member or somebody I care about that is going through this or that just died, or, and then it's real to them and it makes it a lot of difference to them that they didn't understand before. And so I think it's the
Right.
same thing, the same with any kind of trauma, that if somebody hasn't been through something you've been through, they don't really understand. I mean, they can imagine what it's like, but they don't
Right.
really understand. So I think
No.
it's important for us to talk about it, because there are so many people in this world that have been affected by sex trafficking, and half the world
It's
doesn't even know it
unbelievable.
exists.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's actually it's staggering. When I had to go through my training course for volunteering with Refuge City, I just couldn't believe that in each city, I think it was like 1 in 4 kids under the age of 18 are going to get manipulated into human trafficking at some point in some varying degree. And that is in every city, across the USA, but also just worldwide. It is just so crazy. And people are wondering why we're not doing more, we're not talking about it more. A big reason is because it's such an ugly subject. People don't really want to look at children being victims of sexual abuse, but you're going to have to look at it to shine a light on it and fix the
Mhm.
problem. And a lot of people aren't ready or willing to do that, which is another reason why I thought it was important for myself to stand up and talk about it, because I do a lot of wonderful things. Be mom, with a good group of friends. Have I also suffered childhood sexual abuse? Yes, but it's like being able to talk about that, shine a light on it, help other kids. It's like you can grow up and it can affect your life less. So, yeah, I think it's important to continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What have you heard of an organization called, it's called, it's OUR. I can't remember the O, but it's Underground Railroad, and it's his name is Tim. I can't think of his last name. But
Mm.
they went to Haiti and did a documentary film of them busting a ring of sex trafficking with children and stuff, and it was very well done. Um, but I know that organization, I think, has reached a lot of people with the documentary they made and stuff.
Oh, is
And
it
it
about the movie that those people made called like so
oh,
it was like they made a
Sound
really
of Freedom.
yeah, okay, yes, and yes, 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 I saw that, but so
Oops.
glad that no, you're fine, that organizations like that, we are starting to uh talk about it more and more, right, to
Mhm.
find a solution. I know Not for Sale is another really great organization that helps in the fight against human trafficking. So yeah, we're making progress. It's good.
I've
But
heard
yeah.
of I've heard of Not for Sale, but I don't know a lot about it. But I do remember the guy's name is Tim Ballard, and they made a documentary film on their own, and then they made it into the movie Sound of Freedom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it's all the same story about them going to Haiti, but it's basically ex Navy SEALs and military people that are going all over the world, like saving these children. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we just need more of that. Like
Yes, we
more
do.
of that. Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing though is like, yeah, we save them, we whatever, but so what I saw at my time at Refuge City was, the preteens and the teens that come out of that, they're mentally so in a distant place that it takes years upon years of slowly rebuilding, and at that point some kids don't even want to come back into a place of light and love. They don't want to get jobs. They don't really want to do much of anything, and so it's like the destruction continues even after the
Oh, yeah.
rescuing. And so that's why I think it's important to have organizations that, yes, save kids, whatever, but we also need to push that, and we need to provide free counseling, GED programs, things like that. And Refuge City closed down because they lost funding. And it's like, what are we doing? We need to, um, come together more, I think, and find a way
Mhm.
to raise money and things like that. So,
Yeah.
um, I just inspire. I think I'm gonna look more into that. I'm gonna get back into that world and see what I can do. Yeah, just
Yeah.
saying it out loud like that, I was like, well, what am I doing? I need to help.
Yeah. Well,
So
I do think OUR has a program, like they have programs where they not only rescue the children, but they put them in these programs. I think that I don't know the details of it, but I know they
yeah,
have something like that.
yeah,
And I think that just to mention, anybody listening with a nonprofit, I learned recently that there's this company called Sharing the Credit, and it is a gentleman named Will Black that I got introduced to. And what he told me, he owns a credit card processing company, and there is a law in the US that 20% of credit card processing fees can go to charities. And it doesn't cost the business any other money. So like if there's a business who's doing 50,000 in revenue a month, and their credit card processing fees are however much, I don't know,
yeah, a percentage of that,
20% of
right?
that can go to the charity of their choice. And they even make you like a sticker for your business. It says, Visa, Discover, or whatever, and then it has your logo, and we proudly support. And
Oh,
so
nice.
it's a new thing I found out about that we're just getting involved with. And I think it's a great thing for nonprofits that are trying to raise money and finding businesses that could support them without paying out of their pocket.
That's
So
great.
if anybody hears this and wants to know more, just reach out to me, and I will let you know more about it. But that's I was excited about that because there's so many nonprofits that are doing such good work and they just need funding.
Yes, for
Um,
sure.
and so, yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, that's great. I love it.
Well, Kristen, what message do you want to leave with our audience today?
Ooh, I want to let me pick a good one. Uh, Probably my favorite, help others. That's my big one. My first speech I wrote was heal yourself by helping others. So that's my
Mhm.
big main message. Even if it's the tiniest little thing, like letting somebody go in front of you at line who seems to
Mhm.
be in a hurry. Tiny little things or big gestures help other people, because when you do that, you also heal and help yourself. Yeah.
I'm just writing that down.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and being so vulnerable about it, because I know it's going to help someone that listens to this at some point, and they might even reach out to you for a conversation. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. I was really excited to see everything that you do, and and willing to expand and get out there, cuz I agree more of us need to do it. So it is my pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you.